Swim to the light. Good evening, everyone. I'm calling to order the City of Hayden, Idaho regular city council meeting. It's Tuesday, July 9th, 2024, approximately 5:05 p.m. May we get a roll call of council members, please?
Council President Roeder?
Here.
Councilmember White? Here. Councilmember DePreez?
Here.
And Councilmember Schaefer?
Here. We have a quorum. Would you join us for the Pledge of Allegiance, please? Abby, would you lead us?
Yes, sir. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Are there any additions or corrections to our agenda tonight? I'm hearing none. We'll roll on to the consent calendar. All items on the consent calendar are action items, which consist of the approval of June 11, 2024 City Council meeting minutes, approval of June 12, 2024 City Council special meeting minutes, approval of June 25, 2024 City Council meeting minutes, approval of KCSO National Night Out event application, support agreement, and loudspeaker use request, acceptance of Siskiyou LLC dedication right-of-way and grant of easement, approval of the professional services agreement with Ripplinger Engineering Laboratories, approval of change order number 01C for Ramsey Road, Gravity Sewer Phase 2, Wyoming to Dakota Avenue. That is a reduction in cost, by the way. Ratification of Hayden Area Regional Sewer Board Wastewater Treatment Plant Facility Upgrades Payment Request, ratification of the June 2024 payroll, and approval of bills for payment. Anyone like to make a motion?
I'll make the motion that we approve the consent calendars, items 1A through 1J.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion?
Mr. Mayor, I just have one clarifying question on the item about the Ripplinger Engineering Laboratories, about the design drawings. So is that just drawings and not the actual generator?
That is, yeah, correct.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Okay. Any other discussion? Hearing none, may we get a roll call vote, please?
Councilmember Schaefer?
Yes.
Councilmember White?
Yes.
Councilmember DePreez?
Yes.
And Council President Roeder?
Yes.
We're going to move on to visitor public comment. We have one from Bill. Bill, I'm going to skip my script because you've heard it before.
Yes, sir.
I'm going to trust you won't make the podium into a spectacle, sir.
Promise not to do that.
Thank you.
Yes, my name is Bill Breezy. I live on 12201 North Strayhorn. And I am here to provide some feedback for the comprehensive plan open house that you had, I think was 2 or 3 weeks ago. I attended and I went from table to table to table to table. And the first table that I was at, there was somebody there taking copious notes. And then I went to the next table and they were still taking notes, but not, you know, and by the time the end, I didn't see anybody taking notes. At that table, they says, why don't you go to the middle table, take out a form and you can handwrite everything. So I went to the middle table and looked at the form and then I found some 11 by 17 laminated pieces of paper that had the current goals for the comprehensive plan on it. And I said, well, where are the proposed goals? I wanted to have something I could look at it side by side. And they said, well, they're on the big boards behind the tables. And so people kept passing in front of me. So I went to one of the tables and I was, you know, looking at my paper, looking at the thing and trying to write down, and people were talking over my head and there was conversations this way and that way. And I just got frustrated and I decided I was going to go fill the thing online when I got home. And of course, guess what? That never happened. And so, you know, it would have been nice to have had that table set aside for the comments that had both the proposed and the existing goals on there so that it would have been much easier for somebody to have filling those things out, and I probably wouldn't have left then. So that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Bill, thanks so much for the feedback. Okay, we're going to move on to our first public hearing, our only public hearing. Action item PZE 230142, One Place Church, requesting approval to annex one lot, 47.95 acres in size, with a zone designation of commercial. The request, if approved, would also be to amend the future land use map from mixed use to commercial. For the members, for our citizens in the audience, the staff is going to introduce the case. The applicant will then present, staff will then present. There will be a time after that for public comment directed to city council. And there will be the opportunity for the applicant, if he or she chooses, to rebut any public comments or other testimony. Then we will close the public hearing. Council will deliberate and tentatively make a decision.
Fast. Computer's not catching up. Good evening. This is an annexation, a request. It was heard by the Planning and Zoning Commission about a month ago. You received an executive summary with lots of links to various locations for additional data. It's quite a lengthy amount of background data. With the written recommendation and the minutes of planning and zoning, all of the public comments that came in with planning and zoning, and then public comments were attached on the in-board book tonight as well. So as a recap, and I didn't get the flow chart, it's been one of those more days today where everything you touch doesn't quite get there. So in your handy dandy little beginning books in the front, it actually gives a flow chart of the annexation process. And so there's a request for, whether the city council would like to entertain the idea of an annexation, and that was granted by city council. And you gave some conditions. That request came over in October of 23 by them, and then was heard by the city council in November of last year. They've been working on their transportation impact analysis between January and May. They've had that transportation impact analysis done, and it's been reviewed by the city of Hayden as well as Post Falls Highway District, because they also abut this piece of property. So it's been a lot of back and forth there. And then they submitted a formal application in April. The staff analysis kind of happened over about a 6 weeks period as we were getting questions from various agencies, and we were trying to address those as part of the review process. And the public hearing went before planning and zoning after it was duly noticed on June 10th. The recommendation was approved on June 17th. And then this public hearing was noticed, and you've seen public comments come forward. So it's quite a lengthy process. So the applicant, Steve Circles, in the front row, and the owner, One Place Church, Pastor Pace, is sitting next to him. He'll be presenting as well. The property is approximately 48 acres, just under 48 acres, and proposing a zone of commercial. And the property is on the northwest corner of Prairie and North Hutter Road. So just as a matter of context, again, just trying to show where it's at and how it's located. It is adjacent to the city of Hayden. We're over here in pink. And that is our city limits, goes all the way up to the west side of Hutter Road. City of Coeur d'Alene is to the southeast. And city of Post Falls is over here in green, I believe. This area in the center is part of what's considered to be the shared tier of area of city impact, and it identifies that you can annex near or adjacent to and contiguous to the closest that you are, in this case, the city of Hayden. And the future land use map shows the Hutter corridor. There's quite a good swath in there. It shows the property as being mixed use, both commercial, multifamily, or mixture of both. And again, adjacent to it, the existing zone map shows the property east of Hutter as being single-family residential, and then down here on the northeast corner as commercial.
So Donna, can we back up one, please?
Yeah.
For those of us in the cheap seats, the non-colored swath that runs through the middle, which is Hutter, what would that represent then? If it's not designated as mixed use?
It's anticipated that that'll be part of the road right-of-way to build the corridor for the Hutter bypass.
And the developer is aware that if such bypass is ever built, that the county or whomever would
Somebody would. Correct.
take it away.
Correct.
Fair enough, okay. I'd like to be clear.
They do have a proposal that they included in their application for annexation, but I'm gonna believe Steve's slides have a better representation of what they're proposing today. All right, so with that, I'm gonna turn it over to Steve, and he can pick it up from there. Faster pace, actually, I think is leading.
Does anybody have any questions for Donna? Or are we gonna wait until she presents? Okay, thanks, Donna.
Well, thank you guys for the opportunity to be here. My name is Pace and I represent our faith family, One Place Church. And just a little bit about us. I love first that we started our time together of the Pledge of Allegiance. Of course, I tune into One Nation Under God and just fall right in line with the heart of our founding fathers and what a nation can look like, what a community can look like, submitted to that governance. And so tonight we're here in hopes that we would be approved to annexation to the city of Hayden. We've been a part of this community. You guys know we currently gather in what used to be Peak Fitness. We're there in Prairie Avenue Shopping Center. If you're ever around there on a Sunday morning, it's quite the hopping place with so many of our families that are part of the city of Hayden, also surrounding cities here. Our church is about a little over 9 years old, started in my house. And we grew out of my house pretty quickly into the Regal at Riverstone and found a place as we obviously grew out of that, and that was a temporary anyway, into the city of Hayden here at Prairie Avenue Shopping Center. And if you know anything about our people and about our church, we love this city, we love this region, and we have a record of standing with this city, standing with the people of this region through good times and bads. Sadly, we've faced hard times just even in the last 5 years as a nation, as a city. And there's times when when the bottom drops out, they look for help. And we're the kind of church and the kind of people that are here for the help. And we're here to just present a building and a land opportunity that we have. And what you're going to see as far as a building is it represents so much more than a building. I want you to be sure that you understand it represents lives and lives changed. It represents hope, the values that I believe this city has. And it's why so many people live here currently, people that have stayed here and people that are flocking to move to our region. A big part of it is the values of this region. And so we're excited about being able to come alongside of the people of this city and of our region to push into those values and also to create a safe harbor. I mean, if you've ever looked at the effects of a church locally and what it does for a city, it adds a lot of great social services and community, growth and supportive of those values. So today you'll certainly see a campus map, and you hear we're doing our due diligence. We're doing everything that you guys are asking of us, and we're hoping that you will vote in favor of annexation. We have our civil engineer here. Some of our faith family is here. And so thank you guys for coming, many of them residents here in Hayden. But Steve Circle's here to present our site plan to you, and then we'll have time for questions afterwards. Yeah.
Thanks. Good evening, Mr. Mayor and members of the council. For the record, I'm Steve Circle with Tri-State Consulting Engineers. I'm blessed to be here on behalf of One Place Church and excited to present our annexation proposal to you tonight. I'd like to start, too many. Okay, so as previously stated, we currently reside at 190 West Senta Avenue, which is on the backside of the main major complex here. Now, this is the Prairie Shopping Center complex, which also supports Safeway Grocery Store, Hayden Cinemas, Peaks Fitness, Rite Aid Pharmacy, Mountain West Bank, and many other businesses. This entire complex has primary access points off of Government Way, right here, and Prairie Avenue, east of Highway 95. These businesses generate vehicle traffic on all days of the week and create traffic congestion, as previously mentioned, on all access roads previously mentioned. Existing signalized intersections at Prairie and 95, Prairie and Government Way, Honeysuckle and Government Way are the key points for mitigating that traffic in and out all day long. Our proposed campus, new campus, these site-generated trips during operation hours for One Place Church will no longer contribute to this traffic congestion, pending your approval tonight. So we are here for formal annexation into the city of Hayden with our property, which is located on the northwest corner of Prairie and Hutter, with the commercial zoning designation. Per your staff analysis, we recommend standards of approval by city code. Zoning regulations are intended to be in accordance with the comprehensive plan for purposes of promoting health, safety, and general welfare of the residents of the city. Our proposal with our new campus will provide a safe and healthy environment with much more space than our current location. Our current location, as previously mentioned, is too small with no exterior amenities for the congregation. With this proposal, we will have room to utilize and better serve the community. For the future land use map, which was shown by Donna earlier, we are designated as transitional, which allows for commercial mixed-use type development as proposed. The existing zoning map also reveals commercial land in the southeast corner or the northeast corner of the intersection, which seems to be a logical location. That's why we're asking for commercial, because it's contiguous across Hutter Road. I'm gonna blow through, let's cover some of the, here's some renderings that we've gotten from the architect.
How often does the church do services?
Wednesdays and Sundays.
Yeah, primarily Sunday, as far as the bulk of the traffic. It's Sunday. We have student events on Wednesday night.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Good question. So here's just some conceptual renderings that kind of reveal the main entrance coming in, and when I show you the site plan, this will all come about. There's another one showing the exterior and approach. Here's the kids' family entrance, which will be on one of the sides of the buildings. And then we got some outdoor space here planned, and another side of it for, exterior amenities for the church. Now I want to walk you through the site plan. There's a little more detail in this than what Donna had previously submitted. As mentioned, we have approaches off of Hutter Avenue. There's an existing well up here, and I'm going to go into more detail here in a minute. Our phase one is this building here, and that is the phase line between the phase one and phase two. So to talk about sewer, as presented in the staff report, this parcel lies within the 2020 sewer master plan. Now, the development of a regional lift station is required under design, which is under design with other developments that are along the east side of Hutter. As a temporary sewer solution, our development along the, for our first phase of the proposed project, we've evaluated the following. The One Place Church sewage disposal system will meet the regulations by the Department of Environmental Quality. and has an approved area by the Panhandle Health District. We've already evaluated the soils. We will install a standard septic system with pressure distribution to keep the flows uniformly distributed over an approved septic drain field. The system will dose the effluent across the drain field to keep the distribution over an extended period of time to better protect the aquifer. It is important to have a quality system that ensures that we are protecting the environment until public sewer is available. It is also important to mention that our sewer engineer that designed the system was a member of the Technical Guidance Committee for a little over 8 years, and in making valuable contributions to the regulations that are used today in the state of Idaho for sewer design. Meeting these rules and regulations are very important to us to ensure that the system works properly while protecting the environment. This type of system being proposed will be designed for the most efficient system for short-term use as we wait for public sewer to be available within a few years. On the map, you'll see that up in this area here is where we'll have our septic tanks, and then we'll be dosing in the drain fields up in this location area. This is the location area that is approved by the PhD for acceptable soils. And in the future, it'll be easy for us to convert with a gravity sewer line that'll connect into the city sewer once it's available in Hutter. On a stormwater standpoint, the development, as you can see, will generate impervious surface areas such like building rooftops, concrete sidewalk, asphalt paving, which will no doubt increase storm runoff pre to post development. But as you can also see, the parcel with respect to the size of the site will allow us several locations to properly convey, treat, and store all of our site-generated stormwater and to be in full compliance with the city's stormwater ordinance. On a domestic water standpoint, we currently have one well up here, which is in process of being transferred to the Hayden Lake Irrigation District. We have been accepted for annexation into the district, of which we are currently in the final stages of approval. The district accepted our petition and has provided a commitment to serve the proposed site for adequate fire and commercial uses, and that will serve letters in your packet. On an access standpoint, per the staff analysis, Hutter Road will be required for some right-of-way dedication. As you can see down here, this right-of-way corridor here is slated for, I believe, a C1, which half right-of-way width is 37.5 feet. I've accommodated for that on the site plan, along with providing for the 10-foot road drainage, utility, and snow storage easement as your typical roadway section requires.
Steve, question for you.
Yeah.
If the Hutter bypass goes in and doesn't offer direct access to the north-south roadway, what's the plan?
Well, in discussions, if it doesn't go in this location, I've got a little more to talk about that here, but if it doesn't go in, I believe these two locations would be our permanent access if this alignment is not selected. And I got more to talk about on that. So as we were before you last November for consideration, one of the conditions was to do a full-blown, complete traffic impact analysis. We did do that. We prepared that using Mrs. Jennifer Emerson Martin, who is a traffic engineer with Iteris and happens to be your traffic engineer as well. The scope of the study was coordinated with your city engineer, which included 7 intersections and 6 roadway segments to be evaluated. The study recognized our proposed development with trips generated from the proposed square footage of our development, along with the existing and proposed trips of known surrounding developments in the area. As mentioned before, there is residential developments coming online that are in through the process for entitlements. The study analyzed the intersections and roadway segments during a worst case scenario of A&P and peak hours at build out and future project trips. The study was generated by evaluating 2 different time dates. The first was for our anticipated opening date of 2026. And the second would be in the future at 2045, year 2045. All roadway segments per that study perform at an acceptable level of service with and without the project. The study evaluated 7 intersections during those 2 years as well, and all roadway intersections operate at an acceptable level of service with the exception of Hutter Road and Hayden Avenue and Meyer Road and Prairie Avenue during the AM, PM peak hour. The study recommends for the installation of a temporary traffic signal at the intersection of Hayden and Hutter by our open, sorry, I got a little flyer on that. By opening year of 2026, and a northbound right turn lane at Prairie and Meyer prior to 2045. As it is imperative to develop, this property develop, once constructed, provide a safe vehicle route of travel for all purposes, we have no objections to these recommendations and welcome these to become the conditions of approval. The Hutter Bypass Corridor, per the master planning being conducted by ITD and their consultants, we have reserved this area right here, which matches the map that was on before in the best way we could show it for the proposed site. The ITD recently conducted an open house, and that was last week or the week prior. I went to that and they revealed 53 potential alignments.
I was there.
And the whole purpose is to bypass the traffic on I-90 to up north of Hayden, to connect to Highway 95. This program is going to be an ongoing program for several years, but as you can see, we've recognized this area with our property and we've developed around it. That's where our building, our campus is set aside back from it. In review of the goals and policies per the staff analysis, it is apparent that our proposal complements a majority of them. I will name just a few below. Goal 5, the proposal preserves, strengthens the vitality and stability of existing and future neighborhoods. We feel in goals 8 and 10, our proposal can be serviced by existing public facilities without compromising surrounding neighborhoods. Goal 16, our proposal can be developed to meeting the ordinances and policies without violating private property rights, nor adversely impacting private property values. Policy 1, our proposal will allow for the opportunity to provide sewer, water, and other services within the city limits while planning for future extensions in the area. Policy 5, our proposal is contiguous to the existing city boundaries with like zoning designation of commercial. And finally, policy 14, our proposal supports the local irrigation district with the transferring of our existing well and rights, and which will be incorporated into their water master plan, which will help them serve even more properties than just ours. Since applying for annexation, we have worked diligently with city staff and all local agencies to ensure that our proposed development is a safe and stable plan prior to this hearing tonight. We have generated solutions for sewer on a temporary and permanent basis. We have generated a detailed traffic impact analysis per city code, which has recommended improvements. We have generated a solid plan for water, meeting both fire and commercial uses, which includes for the transferring of an existing well and water rights to improve the district service capacities. So in summary, One Place Church is and has been a member of the Hayden community, and we desire to keep this ongoing for many years to come. With your approval this evening, we will be grateful to maintain our Hayden community status and build our new campus to better serve our growing congregation. Stand for any questions.
Go ahead, Council.
Yeah, thank you. How many services do you have on Sunday?
Currently 3.
And what's the average attendance either at the individual service or total throughout the day?
Summertime, we're probably about 1,300, 1,500 when we're not in the summertime. All in total.
Accumulated throughout the day?
Yes, sir.
And your first service begins and your last one ends at roughly?
8 o'clock and last ends at 12:30.
Okay. And maybe a question, I might get shut down for asking this, I don't know if it's, but there's development going on at Hayden Hutter on the northeast corner there. And you talked about traffic mitigation signal that you've looked into. Are you aware of that development up there and the issues related to there? And are you coordinating with them or working with them that type of
Yes.
thing?
Yes. When the traffic engineer, Jennifer, met with the city, as far as those trips, were anticipated in our study. And there's a section in that study that shows that the other development that's coming online. So you're talking about just north of the building supply site, right?
I'm talking about the intersection of Hayden, Hutter Avenue, and the signalization or stop sign or
Yeah.
issues that were related to that development.
Right.
And it sounds like we've got some duplication of either, you said temporary signal, I think is what you said. But I think that, am I going off base here?
You're a bit off base, and I think he's answered your question by stating that their traffic impact analysis, their study has contemplated the potential future development. And as promised to council previously, you should know that there are meetings scheduled with developers along that corridor that are going to address the questions
Okay.
you're asking right now.
That's what I was basically asking there.
I
Yeah.
believe that meeting's tomorrow, if I recall.
It is.
Other questions?
Yeah, I have a question. This traffic analysis that was conducted, was that for phase 1 and phase 2, or were they done separately?
It was for both.
For both? Okay,
Yes,
so
yes.
the full impact of the build-out.
Absolutely. Yes.
Thank you, that's all I have.
Thanks.
Yeah, I have several questions, and they're maybe not quite in logical order. I was jotting them down as I was listening. I'll just go from the beginning to the end. So I understand there's about 10 acres of private property right in the middle of that upside-down U, right?
Correct.
Any anticipated, what's expected of that property in the future? And would it be something that the church would be interested in?
First right.
Yeah, so the landowner used to own that property plus the property, that we now own. He's been leasing that property for, many, many years. He's a farmer and a welder. And so we have actually a great relationship with him. We had negotiated first right of refusal, in the future if the original property owner sold, but he sold to Matt. So Matt is now the owner of that property.
Okay, so he's just going to be a private property owner adjacent to the church campus?
Yes, sir.
For the foreseeable future? What about the two pieces on the other side? What are your intentions with those?
Two pieces.
You're talking about here and here.
East and west of the private property?
Good question.
Yeah.
Well, here, we've got quite a bit of distance there, and that's something maybe in the future planning, maybe something as a commercial development that would support the church. And then over here, until we know where the 53 potential alignments get narrowed down and where that Hutter bypass is, this area, it's kind of open.
Okay.
But it would be logical, and I hear your thinking there, it makes sense. It would be something that we could do a coffee shop or something there, that's something that might support, or a food bank, but that'd be something we'd have to come forth to you in the future, but at this point in time, there's no plan for it.
Okay.
Don, can I ask a question real quick? Related, Donna, the homeowner that's in the middle there, did that piece of land on our current map, is it RS?
It's on our current map, it's in the county.
It's still in the county.
It's not annexed, and it's not a part of this annexation request.
Thank you.
I will be interested in hearing your answer as to what happens to the entrances if and when Hutter expands. So I'll just leave that open as a question. Pastor, do you expect to use this campus for more than just worship services? Do you plan to develop a school there?
No, we don't plan to develop a school.
Anything else?
Anything we can do to serve our community. So if there's activities in the field, and that was all considered within even the traffic study, we had to project, even though in this phase, we don't have any plans of creating a soccer field or any kind of field for the community. We did have to anticipate, if we do, how much traffic that could possibly have. And so yeah, I mean, we want the land to be used to serve our community. So there could be field use for kids and playgrounds and in the future, but not in phase one.
Okay. My next question is, since you anticipate hooking up to whatever future city sewer system exists there, do you know how many hookups that's going to be? Have you thought about that?
I mean, as far as,
Well,
Connections, or
equivalent
is this gonna
household
be-
hookups, like, there's a car wash up on Warren that takes 19, I think, for example.
that I don't have any desire, I don't have any numbers on. And, because it's not designed yet and we don't know exactly where it's gonna come in at here. The best that we can do is provide for our phase one. And then we'll have the dry line put in for future connection.
Okay.
And that connection's gonna be, it'll be based on, I believe it'll be on the occupants of the building, as far as the staff and tenants or congregation.
And that would be at the time of site review.
Yeah, site review, yeah.
All right.
It's too hard to determine at this point.
Okay, fair enough. And last question, until such time as Hutter expands, I think I heard you say that a temporary traffic light will go in, is that?
Yeah, it's
And-
recommended in the traffic study.
Yeah.
There
How will that be funded?
It's developer funded.
Okay,
And so, and we have a meeting tomorrow with the other developers to discuss that location.
okay. That's all my questions, thanks.
And I want to add, if I could, you had mentioned about the Hutter bypass and what's going to happen if it doesn't build or is built there. It's really going to be driven by ITD. If this is an alignment that is selected, then the discussions that have been had is a frontage road would be put in alongside the bypass. That's why the right-of-way is so wide.
Yeah, yeah,
And so we would be connected to a frontage road, which therefore would have ultimate connection to Hutter, maybe down on Prairie or further north.
and since you brought it up, I've seen this map already, and I see the dotted line that represents where you think the extent of the right-of-way would be. Can I just ask rhetorically, have you made sure that that doesn't violate any setbacks or anything with regards to where the parking lot is, or will that be affected in the future, or?
As far as setbacks, building setbacks, we're plenty far away from that dash line.
Oh, I understand, but you do have a
But-
parking lot that's, you could practically.
Yeah, well, during site plan review, I'm sure we'll get some comment. If in fact we need to cut that back, we can.
Okay. All right, I'm done. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.
Sandy, anything?
All of my questions have been answered. Thank you.
I got one more.
Yes, sir.
What are you gonna do with a barn? I gotta ask.
Hey,
It would be an event barn. So we'd
Okay.
have student events there. We could do weddings
Okay.
there. So
Where's the barn?
just north.
right there.
Oh, okay.
Okay, one more also, and to kind of tag on to what Councilmember Schaefer brought up with potential uses of the open space that you have there. And you talked about serving the community. And part of the issues within the community right now are housing, residential housing for distressed situations. Is there any consideration or possibility that down the road you may be creating some type of temporary-ish or dormish type for people who are in distress?
Are you asking us if we're willing to do that?
No, if
Or considering
if
it?
there's been talk of or consideration.
We haven't had conversation.
Okay.
In regards to that.
Okay.
Certainly, if there was a situation we felt like we could help our leadership and church, we'd certainly have the conversation in our process, pray about, what can we do to help?
All right.
Okay, we ready
Thank
for
you.
this?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, with the commercial zoning, that they would have to get something
Well,
rezoned or get a.
yeah, and let me state that, I think we all know what our position is related to, I guess I can only speak for myself that, but, I guess what I'm looking for is some assurance that down the road, it won't turn into something like that.
Correct.
Yeah.
Council, If they were to propose a use that was accessory to the church use that you're proposing, that you're suggesting, they would have to come forward
And get approval.
through a process.
Assuming they follow the law. I think we're ready for you, Donna.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate your time.
So at the time of the request for annexation, we identified that churches we wouldn't be reaping any tax revenue from a church use. So the only time that the city would get an payment or their proportionate share of various required items would be that at the time of a building permit issuance. Impact fees related to transportation, such as the one that they're talking about at Hutter and Hayden, wouldn't be a requirement. We couldn't require them to do that as an extraordinary impact because they wouldn't be within the city limits. So in addition to that extraordinary impact that is identified to do that work, they would also pay impact fees, transportation impact fees based on square footage of the size of their building at the time of the building permit. And then any sewer infrastructure funding would be required as part of future sewer connection to the site. So just wanted to point that piece out. There are 5 standards of approval that are found in your staff analysis that you've had a chance to look at. We're going to go over those in summary. So the first one is that you need to look or consider the existing zoning district and regulation. You can approve it, conditionally approve it, modify it, or deny the proposal, or you can defer it upon the completion of such studies. And so those studies that Mr. Circle alluded to were mostly related to the transportation impact analysis that was completed as a condition of bringing their annexation forward. The second standard is that the city council may impose conditions upon rezoning where such conditions are required to ensure that the proposed uses meet the community's needs, its public health, safety, and general welfare. And the Planning and Zoning Commission may recommend conditions upon rezoning for the city council's consideration. An infrastructure analysis was provided in your staff analysis on pages 4 through 8, and it talked about water and sewer and streets and all of that infrastructure. And then the city council had those conditions on the annexation related to the transportation impact analysis that you had links to in your executive summary. And the first one identified that signalized intersection at Hayden and Hutter prior to opening year. And the opening year is the year that the impact from the project is anticipated to occur. So they're anticipating that the first phase of the church should be done by 2026, and therefore that impact would be happening at that point in time. And then that northbound right turn lane at Prairie and Meyer, which is not inside the city limits, but it is in Post Falls Highway District's jurisdiction, would also be required to be put in as a request of Post Falls Highway District.
I'm assuming that's something Post Falls, yeah, okay, I was gonna ask that question, going what?
The third standard of approval is that amendments to the zone map and or zone text shall be in accordance with the future land use map and the goals and policies found in the Hayden Comprehensive Plan. So the owner is proposing a church and associated accessory uses with no multifamily uses intended. We identified that the area is defined as mixed use, which allows for both that multifamily and or commercial or a combination thereof. The applicant is requesting a zone designation and use of commercial. Commercial land uses allow most types of businesses, small retail businesses, service-oriented businesses, professional offices constitute the majority of commercial activity in the city. Mr. Circle identified about 4 goals. Staff recognized several goals. And the reason is when you have a request that comes forward that has, in the comprehensive plan, had both a residential and commercial piece, you have to look at it from both parts and how that's affecting both those uses. And that's why our goals and policies our goals and policies identified are longer than theirs are. I'm not going to go through each and every one of those, but that is the reason that it's a little bit more extensive. And the policies as well. Standards of approval, the 4th standard of approval says that amendments to the zone map shall align with the zone district's purpose and intent. So the applicant identified that the official Kootenai County zoning district map recognized the property today with an ag, agricultural zone. The owner is proposing a commercial zoning designation for annexation into the incorporated boundaries of the city of Hayden. The zoning, again, in the unincorporated Kootenai County is surrounding this parcel with ag, with nearby designated as rural. The area to the east within the city is zoned as commercial and single-family R1. The area to the southeast within the city of Coeur d'Alene is zoned R3 residential, and the area immediately to the south in Kootenai County is zoned rural. There's an analysis on page 3 of the purpose of the zone. On page 11 for a comparison of the design standards between commercial and the commercial use only of the mixed use, and they're almost synonymous, just as a comparable on page 11. And then the 5th standard is that the amendment to the zone map shall be consistent with the neighborhood context. So if you use that 300-foot radius, those highlighted pieces of property are the ones that are within 300 feet of the exterior boundary of this piece of property. The applicant identified that this subject property is undeveloped except for an existing wireless cell tower facility, and that's pretty much up in this corner, plus or minus. The existing use classification is known as Rural 3. It's described as rural residential parcels with the potential for ag or timber exemptions and associated uses. Surrounding uses are mostly rural residential and ranch or farm style related facilities, as well as rural commercial activities. So if you were to look at the surrounding area, that's pretty much what it looks like today. Notices were sent to 32 agencies. The City of Rathdrum responded with no objections or comments. Panhandle Health District identified requirements that they had on a subsurface sewage disposal, aquifer protection rules. They didn't oppose the annexation, but they wanted them to be in contact with PhD to determine any septic system requirements, which Mr. Circle has identified. The Hayden Area Regional Sewer Board responded with no objection and suggested a new type of manhole cover. The Kootenai County Community Development had no comments or concerns. The Kootenai County Sheriff's Office does not have any concerns at this time. Idaho Fish and Game didn't have any comments to submit for this application. Kootenai County Fire and Rescue responded, identifying the property was within their boundaries, and they found no reason to dispute the annexation and look forward to partnering with all agencies to see this project come to life. Post Falls Highway District, we had a lot of back and forth, and you kind of see this in this comment. They did review the transportation impact analysis and had review comments. Those comments were then taken back to ITERIS and they were addressed. And then they had final review comments that should this project move forward, they wanted to see some additional analysis related to weekend traffic related to specific events. That isn't part of our policies or standards, and it's a Post Falls Highway District request, not a City of Hayden request, which is why we didn't do that prior to this public hearing. Should this project move forward, we would then go back and tune up the transportation impact analysis to address those concerns. Coeur d'Alene Airport responded with a request for an navigation easement on the entire parcel. And DEQ recommended that the proposed project connect to an existing municipal sewer system rather than pursue a septic system. The project site is located on the Raft and Prairie Aquifer, which is particularly sensitive to septic effluent. And if a septic system is considered further, the applicant should coordinate with Panhandle Health District to permit the system. And then depending on the projected flows, the system may also require DEQ review and approval. And then they provided additionally a list of individuals with respect to specific areas of review that might review this project at the time of actual development.
Question regarding DEQ and permitting them to have a septic system. Are they assured that they can have a septic system to handle the volume so they can go forward? In other words, you've met with Idaho Department of Environmental Quality and they say, we're fine.
Well, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
So then public comments that have been received prior to the hearing, comments that were received and sent in the memo to planning and zoning before their public hearing, there were 119 comments in favor, 1 comment that was neutral, and 0 comments that were opposed. And then comments that were received and attached in the memo in board book. For tonight's public hearing, there are 46 comments that are in favor and no comments were received that were neutral or opposed. This is a summary of the staff recommended conditions of approval. Should the council choose to approve this request. The applicant shall enter into an annexation agreement with the city and shall abide by the terms delineated therein. At the time of either site and or subdivision, the applicant shall comply with the requirements of the Kootenai County Fire District. Granting of a roadway drainage, utility and snow storage easement and dedication of right-of-way on Hutter Road in accordance with the city's adopted transportation plan. So Mr. Circle alluded to the fact that the city's transportation plan identifies the Hutter corridor as a 3-lane road section today. And so they would have to give enough right-of-way to be able to build the half width of that 3-lane road section with, to include curbs and swales and sidewalks or bike ped path. That's if nothing happens with Hutter going through there. They'd still have to build that portion or dedicate that right away. Nothing shall preclude the city from acquiring additional future right-of-way at the time of development in accordance with the adopted transportation standards at the time that a building permit were to come in. Setback area in accordance with the KMPO adopted Hutter corridor shall be required at the time of annexation as a condition within the annexation agreement. So as a condition in the annexation agreement, it will state that that area between the dotted line and Hutter is a no-build zone until such point in time that we know what's going on with Hutter. So they can put grass out there, but they can't put any permanent structures in that setback area. As part of, that's what we're proposing in that condition. Dedication of right-of-way and grant of roadway drainage, utility and snow storage easements on Prairie Avenue in accordance with Post Falls Highway District shall be required at the time of annexation. Nothing shall preclude the city or Post Falls Highway District from requiring additional future right-of-way at the time of development in accordance with the adopted transportation standards at the time of development. The developer shall use the City of Hayden sanitary sewer system to serve future development. So basically, when sewer is available to them, or when we're trying to get sewer available to them, the property shall be connected to the municipal sewer within 1 year of it becoming available to them. So there'll be language in the annexation agreement that addresses how that occurs. An navigation easement shall be recorded as a condition of annexation agreement and prior to the publication of the annexation ordinance as requested by the Coeur d'Alene Airport. The property owner shall enter into an agreement regarding the required mitigations as identified in the transportation impact analysis. And then additional possible conditions would be that Idaho Department of Environmental Quality requested the property to connect to municipal sewer rather than connect to a septic system. The developer shall request a sewer tech memo to determine the opportunity to collect and lift the wastewater into the undeveloped H8 basin to the east of North Hutter Road. Currently, they are in another basin that requires a couple, 2 or 3 lift stations, and they have to get to the treatment plant, long ways away. So there is a possible opportunity for that.
Donna, for clarification, IDEQ wants the property to connect immediately to the sewer system, correct?
They would prefer that, correct? Post Falls Highway District, this is where we were talking about the fact that they wanted to analyze the traffic demands and impacts to adjacent roads for church services and/or soccer complex and barn events. And most of those are occurring outside of where our traffic impact analysis policies talk. So it's a Post Falls Highway District request.
Donna, can you elaborate on the second sentence of paragraph A? I find that intriguing, but I don't understand it.
So right now, and I might lead to Alan. Can you help me out, Alan?
In order to facilitate moving up the potential opportunity to connect them to city sewer, it'd probably be more beneficial for them to connect into the future H8 sewer basin than the basin that they currently are in. Because the H basin may move forward with a bunch of other developers in a timely manner. To do that, we would need a tech memo that identified those impacts so that those could be addressed at the time the H8 basin is being developed. Does that?
To essentially amend the sewer master plan.
Yeah.
The sewer tech memo amends the sewer master plan.
Got it. Understood now.
Question regarding the sewer issue. If they were not able to do a septic system and would be required to hook up to the sewer, how would that delay the project? I don't know that's a possibility, but I mean, but if DEQ wants you to connect to a sewer, what kind of delay would that cause if they pushed that issue?
Well, it'd be pretty substantial. You know, we have a desire to come online before this H8 lift station, but the preliminary discussions we've already had with the DEQ, that's the recommendation per comment. But per code, can we do this lift station or this drain field system on the property? We absolutely can. And it won't exceed the maximum requirement for daily demand.
Okay, well, that addresses, this is an additional possible condition.
It is,
And,
yes.
and basically what I'm reading is it would be a burden to not do a septic system.
It would be more of a burden to comply with that and go further on as a temporary until sewer is.
Right,
yeah.
yeah.
I think we're saying the same thing.
Yeah, we're saying the same thing. Okay, thank you.
So the Planning and Zoning Commission recommended approval of the zone map amendment request and recommended that that request be approved with those conditions 1 through 8 and A and B, finding that it was in compliance or in conformance with the standards of Hayden City Code to the City Council. And at the conclusion of that recommendation, motion, and approval, they then also motioned to recommend the amendment to the 2040 Comprehensive Plan future land use map from mixed use to commercial. And both votes were unanimous of the commissioners present. And those are possible motions of the council. I stand for questions.
Could you go back to A and B, please?
Part of my homework prior to tonight was to watch the planning and zoning meeting. When you did your presentation there at the beginning, you said something that I didn't quite understand. But I want to make sure I do. When this plan was originally born, you all went to the county first, and the county sent out notifications to the city. You got the notification, and I'm paraphrasing, and I may say it incorrectly, so correct me if I'm wrong. You said, why aren't they coming to us for annexation? Did I say that right? And can you explain to me the thought process?
So they're in the shared tier of the ACI, and the county code identifies that if you're in the exclusive tier of the ACI, that you have to build in conformance with the standards of whatever. So if you're in the exclusive tier of the area of city impact for the city of Hayden, you have to build in accordance to the Hayden city codes if you're in the exclusive tier. If you're in the shared tier, then the city of Hayden and
And for the benefit of everybody here,
yeah,
could you just make a distinction between exclusive and
Yep.
shared tier for everybody?
I'm just trying to find a good map.
Including me.
Well, that's not really a good map either. I'm trying to find a good map, but I can't really find a good map. So this is Hayden city limits, and there's a hole right here between the rest of the city of Hayden. That's in the area of city impacts exclusive tier. Out here, this area is considered to be the shared tier. And so the three entities that surround the shared tier, the city of Hayden, city of Post Falls, and the city of Rathdrum, share a big chunk of the prairie.
Coeur d'Alene?
Not Coeur d'Alene.
Okay.
Just Hayden, Post Falls, and Rathdrum. And we get to comment on all of the development that is occurring in that area. And then the county, and bless their hearts, gets to try to figure out how to have the applicant meet the county standards and try to meet the entities that have commented their requirements as well. So in the applicant's request for conditional use permit, right? Conditional use permit to allow for the church building, they identified that they wouldn't be able to annex into the city of Hayden. And I'm like, I don't remember ever seeing a request come to the city of Hayden to annex this piece of property. And so that was kind of my comment back. And then I had a whole laundry list of things that they should do, like connect to municipal sewer and participate in roadways. And Post Falls Highway District's comments back at that point in time were that Prairie Avenue is considered a critical corridor, as is Hayden, as is Hutter, because we're expecting Hutter to become a bypass. But because Prairie Avenue is a critical corridor, they were saying no access onto Prairie, which pushes all of their access, where's my mouse, onto Hutter. And I would kind of hope that we'd have some more ability to comment on the impact to our transportation systems than not. And so I just said, I sent those comments back and said, hey, what happened here? So they came and met with staff about pre-development, and then they made their request to city council. Does that kind of sum it up?
I've got one more question. So, what is the advantage of rezoning to commercial versus staying with R1? Or disadvantage, whatever. Why the change?
I think that's a better answer for the council as far as, I can't say benefit or not a benefit for commercial versus mixed use versus
Well,
what they are
obviously,
today.
the request was made for the zone change. Why was the request made for the zone change?
Mixed use allows for both commercial and multifamily and or a mixture of both. And as they've stated, they have no intention of having multifamily being offered. And so they believe that commercial was a better fit for their project.
So kind of like an
I was
act
trying
of
to
goodwill
recap
or
what they've
something?
said.
Is that what, is it like an act of goodwill that you want to just remove it from the possibility of future residential development?
I think that they could answer that in rebuttal,
Yeah.
maybe.
Okay, sorry. I thought it was a question for you.
Yeah,
It might be better to answer, since we don't have the chart memorized, there are allowed uses by zones. Is a church allowed in residential, mixed use, and in commercial?
Correct.
That's the answer. Okay, thank you.
I didn't understand that that's where you were going. Sorry.
Just my interpretation.
That's right. Yes, ma'am.
I have a question about the cell tower Is that going to stay there? Okay. And will that have any impact on the people or anything? Like some cell towers have more wave emissions than others.
That's probably a better question for the applicant in rebuttal. When they're at the microphone, we'll get a cleaner record.
Okay. And so, yeah, for reference for later. Let's see.
I can say that the, all of the areas, utilities were also part of the agencies that were sent agency requests, and we did not receive anything from the cell tower operators as part of the agency comments.
Okay. And when do you anticipate the sewer would become available? What does that look like on our plan?
I don't,
Well, I think the backbone for 8H could be available in a year.
Okay.
The rest of it, I don't know.
but the basin that they're in was like a,
Oh, the basin they're in? I don't know.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for city staff?
One more, if you could go back to where the P and Z approved A and B. And I want to make sure I get this right, because I'm a little confused. Okay, so, it was approved that they'd have to, meet the requested conditions of A and B, is that true? But isn't A saying that that condition, they want them to be on a sewer?
correct.
So they approved it saying you got to connect to the sewer.
They approved it saying that they needed to do the technical analysis and determine whether or not that was a possibility to connect to municipal sewer. A technical memo doesn't necessarily mean that, I mean, and again, Alan can help me here, but
So the technical memo, again, H8 probably provides a better opportunity for them to connect to the sewer in a sooner time frame. If that's possible, then the master plan, the technical memo would identify how that would be done, what the impacts would be, and the availability of that sewer would be better known at that time.
Okay, because that's where the confusion for me is, that I'm reading that saying P and Z approved it that you're going to be connected to a sewer, but they can put in a septic system, which is okay.
correct. It's just to determine the opportunity to collect and lift the wastewater. So, you know, today, as of right now, we don't know if they are able even to connect to H8. But the Idaho Department of Environmental Quality identified in their, and that's why these are additional possible conditions, is because these are conditions related to requests by outside agencies. So the Idaho Department of Environmental Quality in their agency notice said, we would really like you to connect to municipal sewer. However, if that's not available, then work with Panhandle Health and us to make your septic system.
So there's no problem with the project going forward if I don't agree with this additional possible condition, because they can just put a septic system in. Okay, that's all I was looking for, because that's where the confusion is. I'm sounding like they want you to do this, but it's okay to do that.
Right.
But Matt, just to be clear, the real requirement is just the technical memo. It's not to hold up building the church until they connect to sewer.
I just,
Okay.
yeah, just want to clarify that confusion in my mind. Thank you.
Which slide do you want up for public comment?
We don't need it for public comment, I don't think. We're good where we are.
So,
Eventually, we'll want that one.
I know, I just didn't know if you wanted to slide up for the public to comment with.
We'll see if they need it.
Okay,
Thanks, Donna.
you're welcome.
Okay, for those that are offering public comment, we've got forms completed. If anybody else wants to fill one out, they can do so. We're going to hear comments in the order of supporting, uncommitted, and opposed. We ask the commenters to testify at the podium so our remarks can be picked up on the recorder. So I'm going to call it first Dan Mulvaney, please.
Mr. Mayor, is there a time frame on your public comment?
Yeah, I've just asked, please don't go over 2 or 3 minutes. Thanks.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor Davis and City Council. I'll keep it real short tonight because a lot of it's already been discussed. As an involved member of the community, I've been blessed to get to know this leadership team at One Place Church over the last 8 months, and it's no wonder their congregation is growing. Their commitment in the community at large has been a thing to behold, as it regularly happens through action and not through words. When I served there as a greeter at the door, it shows in a number of new faces that come in every single week. And it also shows in the fact that many of those people come back after the first time. We're a great city, which I believe to be excellent leaders that make that happen. And I'm really proud to live here. We're careful and we're thoughtful when it comes to growth, especially the future land use map. Regardless of the minor debates and discussions, you as leaders seemingly always put the city and our residents first. So if we're going to annex approximately this many acres of land into the city, we might as well do it with a project like this that enhances our community and supports the people that live here and strengthen them. I'm in favor of the proposal. I feel like most of the conditions, or maybe all of them, have been met. The Planning Commission was unanimous in favor, and it's my sincere hope that after some necessary considerations that you guys do as well. Thank you.
Yeah.
Pleasure.
Okay, we got Quinn Shuck.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and City Council members. I've been a part of One Place Church for almost 10 years, and there's not enough time in a meeting like this to tell you what One Place Church has been for my family and I. Nearly every blessing in my life can be traced back to One Place Church. It's remained an epicenter for faith, hope, and generosity, supporting kids through schools and foster care systems, teenagers by supporting our middle schools and high schools, supporting Open Arms Pregnancy Center and women's shelters, law enforcement, first responders, and hospitals. One Place Church is constantly giving back to the people that serve the people of this region. This annexation is another step forward in expanding that support. We already exist in Hayden and would love to stay an official part of this community. It's my opinion that growth is not inherently bad, and I would even argue that in a place as beautiful as we live, it's essentially inevitable. This church will not cause growth in our region, but it will support healthy growth. This building will give people a place to find life, community, and purpose. It'll keep our region more family focused, as it already is, and continue to support the principles that already make our area such a great place to be. The studies of what churches do for communities are essentially unanimous. When churches go into communities, there's better mental health, lower rates of suicide, depression, and anxiety, better grades for students, and the list goes on. But what we may miss in these stats are the stories of each and every person affected. I don't know what you think about when you think about One Place Church, but One Place Church is not Pace Hartfield. It's not the staff, but it's the countless people that have found Jesus at One Place Church, the countless people that have had new life, purpose, and hope at One Place Church, the marriages that have been saved, the addicts that have found freedom because of what Jesus is doing through One Place Church. Thank you.
Thank you, Quinn. And Winnie Long.
I'm Winnie Long, and my husband Mel and I met Pace right around 2011 when we came from California, like everybody does, on business. And we ended up buying Rockwood Lodge Apartments right across from Lakeview High School there. And we asked our manager, we said, what's a good church in town? And she said, well, I really don't know, but a friend of mine's good friend knows this guy that started a church in the theater, and it's real close to your house there. And so we went, and the first Sunday we went, and there were 20 people there, and 15 of them were students. And I whispered to my husband, and I said, this poor pastor, he's not going to make it when all of these kids go home. And we were the only senior citizens there, of course, and I think there weren't more than 3 people that were 35 years old or so. But God really helped Pace, and then he preached his sermon, and I thought, oh my goodness, you know, this is really an intelligent man and a great sermon. And we kept going, and we would see the church grow, and you know, it would grow, and those students all came, and then pretty soon we weren't the only senior citizens in the church. But anyway, we just really got about a year after we started. Pace and I were talking, my husband and I were at a Christmas party in California, and we realized that we had mutual friends from, you know, I'd never known him and he'd never known us, and very successful mutual friends that we have. And that kind of got our friendship going. And a lot of you may think, well, okay, this guy, you know, his church is growing. He just drives by the land and he thinks that, you know, this is a good piece of land, I'll buy it. But Pace really thinks about things. He's a very intelligent man. He associates himself with intelligent people, and somebody who's intelligent knows that they don't know anything, so they go out and get people, you know, that really help them. So I just wanted you to know that you do have someone that has really thought this whole thing out, and it's not just a quick thing, and that many of these people that I have met, they all had such high things to say about Pace. One was the founder of the Dream Center in Los Angeles. That's one of the biggest dream centers in the United States and well known all over. And the fellow started it. He bought anyway, I won't go into it, an old hospital, and it's just turned out to be a wonderful thing. But I just also wanted to say that my husband and I'm a real estate broker. I've been a commercial real estate broker and focusing on multifamily home sales and an investor in our later years too. And we both came from absolutely nothing. We came from 2 real poor families. We got married. We had twins at 20 years old. That was a fun thing, having twins at 20. And my husband worked 2 jobs and put himself through college at the same time. And God blessed us. But I wanted you to know that we have faith that this is going to be a good project. We have faith because there's someone who's really thought this out and, you know, taken a lot of work. The reputation, you know, Pace has a good reputation locally, but he has it all over. He's well known in many, many places, and a speaker that people want him to speak. And so I just want you to know that we determine our family has been a major donor in this project and something that we've never done before. And that we're putting our money where our mouth is, and we know that this is going to be a success. And just at the end and finishing here, what I was thinking is, how is this going to help the city of Hayden? And what I found, the world kind of changes when you get old and you've watched it go on, but I see the younger people and I see they like to live by the churches, and especially in this area, the church is the focus of their kids. You know, they have kids' night, they have this or that, little gatherings, and people want to be near, and people will buy a home because they want to be by the church. It used to be the church would go where the home is, but I see that, and I can see, I think that Hayden is a beautiful city as I look, and I see the good job that you're all doing, and appreciate that so much, that, you know, this could bring in really more, you know, people coming in if that's the focus, but it would generate, different income and so forth. So I just hope that everything works well for the city of Hayden and works well for Pace. And we're just happy that we met him quite by accident when we came up here and ended up with a few more properties too. So we're real happy about being in this area. Thank you.
Winnie.
Okay, the applicant, you have the opportunity, if you so desire, to offer any rebuttal to anything that has been presented by the city or through public comment. You can't bring up anything new.
Well, as in terms of rebuttal, I don't really have much. I appreciate the congregation coming and speak. But I'd like to answer any questions. I think maybe Mr. Schaefer may have a couple of questions or any questions you guys might have.
Well, you said that you were going to answer about what might happen with the entrance roads if Hutter were ever to expand and that Hood bypass would ever to happen.
Okay, and so to kind of reiterate that, so if Hutter doesn't get built, then our proposal would be is to have those approaches where we have them. And that's why on our site plan, we show we're 600-700 feet away separation wise, so we won't have any this with left turn movements and right turn in and out and whatnot. And we're quite a bit a ways from the intersection at Hayden and Prairie as well, Hutter and Prairie. That signalized intersection.
Okay.
Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Okay, great. I'd like to talk a little bit about wastewater. I just want to clarify, I get what that additional A is and doing a technical memorandum, we're willing to do that. I know that if, I don't have my site plan up, but maybe I can bring it up. Our design has.
It's on the bottom. Go to the P at the bottom.
Thank you.
There it is.
Okay. So, per PhD rules over the aquifer, we're at 250 gallons a day per 5 acres, right? And so with almost 48 acres, that's quite a bit of gallon generation per day. Now, knowing that we have our main services on Sunday, which is common, and it's not new news for anybody going to church, there's several septic tanks here that we'll and when my presentation, we'll be metering and time dosing those throughout the week.
Right.
And by doing that and being dosed, pressure dosed distribution system, that'll keep it even spread across, which is even above standard than just a standard septic system, drain field system. So we feel real confident that, well, we know that it meets the DEQ rules and it meets PhD rules as well. So if we still got to do a technical memorandum, I guess we're willing to do that, but I just don't know if that's going to be feasible.
And that's why I'm wondering, what's the justification for the technical manual if you solve the problem now with the idea you're going to connect when you can?
I absolutely agree with you.
That's what I don't get.
Yeah, and if A is not something you recommend, that would be great. At P&Z, I tried to discuss that as well. And it was obviously, as you can see, recommended.
What was the rationale for A?
I think at P&Z, the first hearing, they were, well, let's just abide by DEQ's recommendation, their review comment. And when I tried to explain to them, well, until we really know what H8 is, then it's kind of hard to do that analysis. So, but it was motioned for approval of that.
In addition to that, that is a condition that came out of the council's questions in the original November meeting. So that technical memo and the technical analysis and really determining the best way to handle sewer for the church came out of the council's questions at that meeting.
I see it as burdensome to the project. That's where I'm hearing, unless I'm missing something.
The technical memo, they're not currently assigned in the sewer master plan to H8. What basin are they assigned to, Alan?
It's a future basin that
It's
would,
like 10 or,
and it would cost quite a bit more to develop than H8, so being able to shift that is,
So the technical memo, yes, is just designed to amend the sewer master plan to shift them out of that much later basin into H8 because H8 is likely to come online sooner. So this is essentially a two-step process. Their approval by DEQ, assuming that they receive that for the septic system, assuming you approve. And then once sewer comes online, because it will likely be the H8 basin, to do a technical memo at that time to say that they're a better fit for H8 than 10 or 11 or whichever one it's currently assigned to. So it's not as burdensome as it might look in that condition.
so if I,
Yes.
when the sewer basins were developed, there's no way of knowing how they're going to develop, right? They could develop from south to north, north to south, east to west, west to east. And so when you get a property that's on the very limit of that basin, and you realize that for that to develop in the basin at end, it would have to require to develop all the way to the north and then build a force main all the way to the treatment plant. That's very burdensome. However, right across the street, right across Hutter Avenue, probably within a year or two, will be a sewer basin that you can connect into without developing all the way up and creating that long force main. If the infrastructure that's already in place can handle that additional flow. And that's what the basin, that's what the tech memo determines. With that, it can be done at a fraction of the cost of what it would cost otherwise. That's what's happening.
And Alan, just to be clear, if city council wants to require a tech memo, it's not going to slow down the ability of the church to come online.
No.
It'd have to eventually be done, the tech memo to determine what basin.
No, if it wasn't done, they would have to develop in the other basin and they would probably have to, we'd have to do planning for them to put in a lift station at some point, a lot of other infrastructure that has to be planned for just to collect this project in the future.
So it's advantageous to the city.
To go into H8, the problem is if we don't do the study today, there'll be infrastructure installed that may not support it, that could be installed at, maybe at no cost, for all I know. And so it's a timing thing and how things develop. So how things develop in the world don't always fit how it was looked at when it was planned, right? So that's what that opportunity is.
Okay, any other questions?
Are you, did I answer your question?
I just want to create something that's easiest for them to get what they need done, and if there's extra steps, I don't want to see that. And it seems like if they can do a septic system and move forward with that, and then eventually figure out how they're going to connect to the sewer. I understand that that's what's going to happen, but I just don't know about this additional possible condition, a VA.
The tech memo protects the city and gives us the ability in the future to ask them to analyze whether or not it makes more sense for them to be in H8 than to completely build out 10 or 11. Or whatever that number is, I can't remember what basin.
So it's beneficial for them to do this?
Yes, it's beneficial for both sides.
Both parties.
Yeah.
Okay, well then that answers my question. Thank you.
That is-
Sorry to belabor it, but I was
It's okay.
a little.
Do we have any other questions for Steve tonight?
I do want to address Councilman White.
Okay.
As far as I've represented this property before the church purchased it, and it was a retired doctor, Dr. Bill Tarnaski. And this cell tower was in place and has been in place when One Place Church purchased it. I believe it's a permanent easement, like a 99-year lease or whatnot. So at this point in time, we don't have any desire, nor could we make that be removed. But being it's existing, I just wanted to clarify that with you.
Thank you.
Other than that, I stand for any questions. Thank you.
Good job.
Thank you. Okay, so we're going to close the public hearing and move on to council deliberations. Council can choose to proceed with deliberations or schedule deliberations for a later date to allow time to review the record. Do you want to proceed?
Mr. Mayor, I propose we move forward with deliberations.
All right, please deliberate. Who's got something to say?
I'll say, I see that they meet all the 5 standards of approval. And I know that there's staff recommendations, 8 of them. And they connect, and the 2 supplemental conditions. I find that they've met all that. I do want to say that it was stated that the building and the property will not generate tax revenue. And I'll tell you what a church does to a community and the way it integrates far passes what any money can do collected in taxes. And so I love the idea that we have churches wanting to come to Hayden. Because it's a fabric of our nation, our country, our community. And I just thank Pastor and all the people that supported that church, because that's what America's about. And so I appreciate what you're doing.
Anybody else have anything to deliberate?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, I got a few things. So when I reviewed this, I'm going to be real honest about this. At first, I was concerned, and these are the reasons why. As a community, we're concerned about growth, encroachment, and loss of the prairie and effects on the aquifer. And those are things that I would like to champion whenever I have the chance to deliberate on something like this. I worry about, well, first of all, since we kind of informally agreed when we were doing our revision of the comp plan that we reaffirmed that our commitment was to grow inwardly with inland fill and not to expand beyond the city boundaries. I found it like, okay, is this setting a precedent? And I don't know. I'm stating that rhetorically for the record. I'm excited to see that so much of the property will be undeveloped, so that it will be open space for protection of the aquifer. I also want to bring up something, and this is for, consideration of the council more than anything else in future, is that the Idaho legislature has proposed to build a safeguard farmland from development. This comes from the Boise State Public Radio News, March 1st, 2024. And they are considering the fact that 150,000 acres of farmland were lost between 2017 and 2022. The bill would require all Idaho counties to create ordinances establishing agricultural protection areas. Now, I'm not saying that applies here. I'm just stating it for context. I personally feel like this is a logical place because it's right at the junction of 4 different municipalities. It makes sense to me. And so having brought up these issues, I find that everything here is in accordance with the standards of approval. I think it's exciting to have another church family in the county, and I support it.
Any other deliberations, Sandy?
Yes. Yeah, I know that One Place Church has been very active in bringing community together. I've gotten postcards from them about events that are happening, and just so excited about them being in our community. I approve of this proposal.
Okay. Eddie?
Yeah, sure, I'll tag on to everything that's been said with regards to the effects of the church on the community and the like. But also, it kind of, again, speaks to what Councilmember Schaefer talked about. That aside, the benefits and the good things aside, we're worried about our neighbors coming up onto our border and doing things that we can't control as far as the density of development and like. And when you have 50 acres like this, and you touched on it about not wanting to move outside of our borders, this gives us the opportunity to preserve, in a way, and protect what, if you look to the west, not too far, what you see happening, and it's doing this. And so I agree. I think this is a great thing, and I think that as we have other opportunities along that avenue, that not only preserve and basically to preserve the property, the land, and make it a very beneficial and productive aspect of the community. So I agree wholeheartedly.
Are there any other deliberations?
I failed to mention, Mr. Mayor, I think it's a good idea that you guys go forward with that technical memo so that you can hook up sooner rather than later to the sewer. And I would suggest that be part of the motion to approve.
Okay, very good. If someone would like to make a motion, I would just ask for the record for you to include your thoughts on the 8 staff recommended conditions and the 2 additional possible conditions. Would anyone like to make a motion?
I would like to.
Okay.
Yes. So I would move to approve PZE 230142, One Place Church annexation with a zoning designation of commercial. Request with staff recommended conditions of approval and additional agency requested conditions. Finding the request is in accord with the standards of Hayden City Code based upon testimony received at the Planning and Zoning Commission and City Council public hearings and record of the request.
Okay, there's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? Hearing none, maybe we get a roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Schaefer?
Yes.
Council President Roder?
Yes.
Councilmember DePreez?
Yes.
And Councilmember White?
Yes.
All right, we're going to move on to unfinished business.
You have one more.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I apologize. We do need also an amendment. We need a motion to amend the future land use map from mixed use to commercial. Would somebody like to make that motion?
I'll make it.
Go ahead, Ed.
Is that the one, are we looking at the?
Well, it's similar to the one that the planning and zoning made. It's just a motion to.
You just read it out here.
Is that it? Which one?
Right here.
Okay, I would motion to approve the request to amend the future land use map from mixed use to commercial.
As it applies to this.
As it applies to
this piece of land.
PZE 230142.
Wonderful. We have a second. Please.
Second.
We have a second. Is there any discussion? Can I get a roll call vote on that?
Councilmember White?
Yes.
Councilmember Schaefer?
Yes.
Council President Roder?
Yes.
And Councilmember DePreez?
Yes.
Okay, now we can move on, but I think you were going to request
A break.
a quick break. All right, let's make it quick. We'll resume at 6:45 PM. I assume we need Abby?
Yes.
No, not, not like that. Well, I can at least introduce it without Abby. We're going to move on to unfinished business. The first thing that we have is an action item to amend to Title IX, Chapter 3, Fire and Emergency Medical Service Districts Development Impact Fee Ordinance to include the Kootenai County Fire and Rescue District. This just builds on what City Council approved at the last meeting. So we can't take a motion quite yet, but that's the introduction. Please.
There she is. She's really good.
There we go. It's okay. So is there any discussion or would someone, we need two motions from this.
Read the language in your motion.
What's that?
Read the language of the first motion.
That's right, you supposed to do that. Well, I thought that's once it was, I thought that was the second part, wasn't it?
So,
Or do I need to?
is anybody presenting this?
Is it? Is it for it?
Yep.
What's your question?
You just called it.
Well, I just, normally when there's some kind of, well, my understanding, and correct me if I'm wrong, is that the state law changed so that fire districts can charge an impact fee?
Yeah, we had the public hearing on the request. And this is the ordinance that puts that into place that was approved by city council
Right,
previously.
and for the public, what that is that we collect that impact fee. We don't keep it though. It goes to the fire district. So that's what, this is what that's about.
Right, we're just adding Kootenai County Fire and Rescue District because they have areas in the city today and in west of Hutter that are in their district area, and this will enable them to collect that impact fee in addition to Northern Lakes Fire Protection District.
And Matt, I found my script. So the two motions, the first one is make a call for a motion to read the ordinance by title only, suspend the rule of reading it in full on 3 separate dates, and to approve the first reading.
So moved.
Okay. Second, we get a roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Schaefer?
Yes.
Councilmember White?
Yes.
Councilmember DePreez?
Yes.
And Council President Roder?
Yes, I hope I didn't get in trouble. I have to ask the legal counsel.
Oh,
My son-in-law works for Kootenai County. Is that a conflict?
no, you do not have a conflict. Your
I
son-in-law
just
is
making
also,
sure.
your son-in-law is also my son's baseball swing coach, so he's a busy guy.
Okay, we're good.
The board book, right?
Small town.
Small town.
Yeah.
I like that.
Caps.
In bold.
Caps. The next one down.
Are we waiting on?
Right there.
Just looking for it.
Okay, so I'm going to read an ordinance of the city of Hayden, a municipal corporation of the state of Idaho, adding Title IX, Building Regulations, Chapter 3, Fire and EMS Districts, Development Impact Fees, providing severability, providing repeal of conflicting ordinances, and providing an effective date. So that is the reading. Now I need a call for a motion to adopt the ordinance on having passed its first reading by title only, and that it be published by summary, incorporating the title as the core of the summary upon passage.
So moved.
And we've got a motion, a second.
I'll second that.
May we get a roll call vote, please?
Council President Roder?
Yes.
Councilmember White?
Yes.
Councilmember Schaefer?
Yes.
And Councilmember DePreez?
Yes.
Okay, and all ordinances will be published in full or by summary within 1 month after passage before the ordinance can take effect. So that's 4A. 4B is an amendment to fee schedule resolution to include the pass-through Kootenai County Fire and Rescue District Development Impact Fees.
We have a gong.
That rings a bell.
My husband's calling me, sorry. Trying to shut my phone.
And the pause is because it's taking a fat minute to load.
It's just a
Doesn't your husband know that you're in a meeting?
I don't know if he forgot.
As stated.
It's our anniversary today, so
Oh.
thought I forgot and didn't come home, so.
If a council member wants to make a motion to approve the resolution, that's all that's required for 4B, since I've got the hourglass of death going on here.
Let's try this maybe. I motion to approve the amendment, the fee schedule resolution to include the pass-through Kootenai County Fire and Rescue District Development Impact Fees.
Okay? very good.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, may we get a roll call vote, please?
Councilmember Schaefer?
Yes.
Councilmember White? Yes. Council President Roder?
Yes.
And Councilmember
Yes.
DePreez?
Okay, and the last unfinished business is consider public comments from the public open house regarding the goals and policies for the 2040 comprehensive plan, public and authorized forwarding to SJC Alliance for review against the city's other long-range plans. This is so planning and zoning hosted their, wasn't a workshop, it was a
Open house, town hall thing.
open house. I wrote it down. An open house, and the next step in aligning our ordinances with what we got feedback from the citizen survey is to next forward this new language to SJC Alliance to for their opinion on the impact against our current city comprehensive plan. So we're looking for is a motion here to authorize the city to forward to SJC Alliance for review against the city's long-range plans, those updated goals and policies.
Do we get to have any discussions about this, or did you just want to go right to motion?
You guys can talk about it if you want.
Okay. Donna, how much is this going to cost the city?
So, I reached out to, Rachel Granreth from, SCJ Alliance, who is the company that did the last comprehensive plan update, kind of in anticipation of this meeting and, completion of our public comment piece. We did a really robust comment piece. I just wanted to, I know that Bill gave a kind of a recap of his experience there, but just for council's interest, and for those of the public, we did a notice in the utility billing. We did a notice in an article in the city's newsletter. We did advertisement in the paper twice. That was included kind of in your summary. We provided 2 weeks prior to the open house, we provided an ability to provide comment on the website. We received lots of really good, positive feedback about the website and how much good information and great links there were on the website, although we didn't receive a ton of comments on the website, which is all right. It's kind of a good thing both ways. We held the open house for 3 hours where we had staff writing notes, diligently writing notes or trying to write notes. Those notes that they took are attached. People write notes differently and they take recap summary notes differently, and you would expect that, a little bit of that. We heard positive comments. Bill makes good points. Part of the reason that we didn't put the goals and the old goals and the new goals side by side is because as Planning and Zoning and City Council is aware, it isn't we amended this goal and it became this. We rewrote these goals and they became this. So there you couldn't get a one-for-one comparison. So we put laminated sheets on the center table so people could pick them up, read through them, wander around and look at them for the new goals and see how those were different. I apologize for the confusion.
Most importantly, Tom wants to know, show me the money.
I'm getting there quickly. So as a result of that, and then 2 weeks after, so we did do a robust, and so I shared that with Rachel because she was trying to figure out how much additional public comments we needed to have. And so she took that out of the process of what she was proposing. I got this 5 minutes before the city council meeting, so I really can only share briefly. So she's looking at like a kickoff meeting with the city council. She's looking at doing some assessment and analysis to evaluate the alignment of the vision, goals, and policies with a future land use map, assessing the implications for the entire comprehensive plan and other long-range plans to determine if updates are necessary, enhance the language in specific areas as desired by the city council, ensure compliance with Idaho State Code, verify if the proposed amendments rise to the level of the required 5-year review cycle. So if we do amendments now, have we met a requirement of the 5-year review cycle? And then a desktop analysis of the financial analysis and impact to existing plans, projections, and cost considerations to the city. She'll work with the city on any mapping revisions that may be required for the future land use map, and then provide a memorandum to the city council and a follow-up meeting with city council. So there's 2 meetings with city council in there in workshop format. And then that total comes to about $17,000 plus or minus.
You said
And then-
17K?
$17,000 plus or minus. And then a phase 4, that's like a 3-phase process. First workshop, assessment analysis, and then a second workshop with city council.
Donna, do you agree that all this is necessary? In other words, could we just tell them to de-scope it to make sure it's in accordance with Idaho law, and to just look over the document and make recommendations on potential changes to the comprehensive plan?
No, they have to look at the effect of the master plans.
Okay.
And then she does have a future phase in here, phase 4, that talks about, kind of a 3-tiered approach that we had kind of talked about in scoping, and we would want to re-evaluate that. And she's throwing a dollar amount at it of about $13,000 plus or minus, because if this becomes an actual update to the comprehensive plan, then there are other areas in the comp plan that we'll want to update as well, like that whole demographics chapter will need to get updated.
And then related to that, it's my understanding that once the goals and policies, should they change, get incorporated in the comprehensive plan, the city council desires to then tackle the future land use map and modify it to more accurately reflect our citizens' desires. Is that part of the 17,000? Are we going to
Part
kill?
of the 17,000.
So we'll kill 2 birds with 1 stone there. Okay, so there's some more value, I guess, with that big dollar. And then lastly, have we identified funding for this? And we have it.
With respect to this year's budget, I believe we didn't have anything budgeted this year, but next year, I think we have 20,000 budgeted, so, the thought was, in the brief interaction we had before the council meeting, just about 30 seconds worth, was that, we are expecting some cost savings with our transportation projects, potentially, that we could roll into funding some of that.
This year.
This year, right.
So we won't have to wait.
The hope would be, and I need to get more dialed in with those projects to see where they're at, but a lot of them are finishing up with some fund balances still remaining in them.
Okay, so we have good confidence that we could fund it this year.
I feel confident that we could, yes.
Thank you. Ed?
So it sounds like, if I understood it correctly, part of the process would be most likely in those workshops addressing the potential adjustments to the future land use map. That's all?
As well, she'll take those goals and policies and she'll bring you suggested amendments to your individual chapters based on the new goals and policies.
Right.
As well as your master plans, as well as your future land use map, and you'll discuss that.
And the idea that this could satisfy our major revision means we wouldn't have to look at the comprehensive plan for 5 years if we're happy with the product. And the citizens are happier with the product.
Well, correct me if I'm wrong, this is really only step 1, because after this comes action plan and codes, right? So if we go through this whole process, we update the future land use map, she provides us feedback on where it would affect the comprehensive plan. At that time, then, we will then do the same workshopping of action plans and codes, right?
Action plans and then potentially direction toward codes.
Okay, and so there's going to be a second round going back to SJC.
SCJ.
SCJ? I thought it was,
SJC.
okay,
SCJ.
sorry.
Super Cobra Jet. It's a Ford product.
Yeah. For a sec.
So we'll go back to SCJ again and rinse and repeat, right?
Potentially, that's why the phase 4 is a little sketchy at the moment, because we don't know what that's all.
And there's no implication that the city would need to use a consultant for that work. We certainly would come back with that proposal at a future date, should we need that. It might be that we internally have the staff and the bandwidth to do it, who knows? But at this point, the goal is to get through the comp plan and then turn into the codes with the resources that we may or may not need.
Because that's really where the rubber meets the road. I mean, this is nice, goals and policies, but it's really gonna have an impact on citizens when we get to the codes, right? So I see that as the more important step than this one here.
But this is the big step in the right direction.
I understand that, but what I think I'm hearing you say is we may not have to engage with SCJ again?
We'll cross that bridge when we assess what the changes might be and whether or not there's staff bandwidth to do those internally or if we need the assistance of a consultant. So I'm just saying that this contract or this potential interaction with SCJ doesn't necessarily mean that we will interact with them at the code level. We could, we just don't know yet.
We probably will at action planning.
Correct. But not necessarily.
Okay.
Any other comments? Yes.
Yes, I'd just like to comment that there were only about a dozen or so that came to this workshop or town
Open house.
that, because there was that Republican convention that weekend, there were thousands of people there. And so even though there was a lot of notice sent out, they couldn't make it to it. And I've been looking at the responses that we have, and there's a lot of good comments. So one question is, what changes were made to these documents after we got those comments?
Nothing.
Nothing, okay. So, so when would, so it's in this process of going through it with this company that we would look at the comments that people made, look at the survey, and will we have more outreaches, more times for people to come and make comments again?
So the number one question for you to discuss tonight, and the reason you have a discussion item is because you need to look at the comments from the public and determine whether or not there's anything in there that justifies any more changes to your proposed changes. Step one.
Okay, great.
Yes, okay.
Thank you for that interpretation.
Yes, I feel like there are changes that need to be made, and I've looked over the goals and vision statement too, and there's some changes that I would like to see talked about. So would that be in this first motion to?
You wouldn't be making those changes to your proposed changes tonight.
Okay. Could we pause for a council workshop first before we go on to any of these other motions? And,
Go ahead.
and have the city council have a workshop and talk about it, look at the things that were brought forward and our own potential changes before we go on?
Yeah, and I'll just reiterate, I did observe and I read every comment, and there were a lot of negative comments about goal number 2. I'm just stating that as a matter of fact.
Could I make that motion for us to have a workshop?
Well,
as a city council
So
alone?
so the action item is to either forward to the contractor for review or not. Go ahead, Ed.
Thank you.
Those are possible.
I was here for the entire 3 hours or whatever it was, listening to what was being said. And when you look at the list of people, this was an average turnout for open house. Every open house we have, for the most part, this is an average turnout. We don't get much turnouts for open houses, okay? Several people, and I welcome everybody, I'll say it again, to come and make your comments. But several people don't live or vote in the city of Hayden who made comments and things like that. I also heard, just overhearing things, that possibly relates to some of the comments. People were coming in and saying things that were totally wrong. Totally, where they got their information, not really sure, but they were coming in and making statements. And correct me if I'm wrong, numerous times, staff had to say, no, wait a minute, here's the facts, here's what this is what it is, and the like. And it's just a continuation of people not, proper information not being disseminated out, and then people believing it and coming in. We agreed on the changes. I thought, if I'm not mistaken, we voted on the goals and policy changes that we were going to put out to the people. I think they're very good. I think they consolidated a lot of things, and I think they hit the point on a lot of things. I don't think we need another workshop, because a lot of these comments are, in my opinion, based on inaccurate assumptions and information that people have when they made the comments.
Matt, do you have anything to add?
Just a question, I've heard phase 4, so there must be 1 through 4. Do we have a range of the cost of this? Because I heard 2 figures, 17K and 13K. So does that mean?
The $17,000 was proposed, plus or minus, was, kickoff with council workshop, the assessment and analysis, those pieces that I was rattling off, about, doing the analysis of these vision goals and policies with our existing Idaho statutes, future land use map, master plans, that piece. And then a workshop presentation, that's like 1, 2, 3. And then at the conclusion of that, we would look at what our next steps would be. Does this trigger a full-blown update for the 5-year plan? And that is the one that has like a kind of it's very, not very well set in stone, but she provided kind of a running number of about $13,000, but keep that in mind that that's really.
So what's a hard number that we know that we're gonna have to pay for whatever we're asking for now? What's that number?
17,000 plus or minus.
Plus or minus.
And I think
What about
with
the
that,
13 grand? Where did that come from?
that's the later phase 4, if phase 4 is needed after phases 1 through 3.
Okay, so then possibly the total amount is 30,
Could be.
but that would be the max.
No, could be more.
Could
It's
be
plus
more,
or
but
Could
minus.
be more. That's what I'm getting at. I'm
Yeah.
trying to get a handle.
But tonight for the motion, it's just the 17.
But to answer Councilwoman White's question, I believe that first workshop will satisfy what you're looking for, because the consultant's going to get the proposed changes plus these comments, and she's going to review these comments and make a recommendation as to whether or not they would elicit some further tweaks to your goals and policies, and you can talk about that in your first workshop with her.
And Mr. Mayor, point of clarity here, we're not bringing forward a contract for you
No.
guys to approve. We were just giving you a little bit of the pre-work that we had already done in anticipation that we come back before you with a contract to give you some cost ideas. We're not approving a contract tonight and a fixed amount. So.
Okay, thank you.
Will we have some of those specifics when you do come back with a
Yes,
contract so we can, okay.
Yeah, again-
That's why I wanted to get a grasp.
You guys are just getting the knowledge that we got as it came in. It just was, the timing was okay, but again, we're not ready to present to you a
So
contract.
if I could just repeat back what I heard from you, is that if Councilman White has a concern about current verbiage in the revised goals and policies, when we get together with a consultant, that will be an opportunity to tweak it at that time.
Yes.
Okay.
So, somebody like to make a motion?
I'd like
I think there's
to
another
ask one more
question.
question.
Sure.
please. So this SCJ Alliance have we looked at other options or other companies that could help us?
We have not.
They have knowledge of our comprehensive plan.
Right, they have all the knowledge of our current comprehensive plan and,
Because of all the data they have from drafting your current comprehensive plan, you would start over with another company at a minimum right now of probably $50,000.
It'd be
At
much
lea-
more than that.
Or more. I mean, I'm talking just bare minimum to do what you're looking at now, probably closer to 70,000. So going to the company that drafted it, that has all of the data sets and everything already stored, is entirely more cost effective than trying to start over at this stage.
I'll do a motion.
Okay,
Okay, my motion is that we direct staff to work with consultant SJC
SCJ.
and
SCJ.
It says SJC.
I think it was probably typed wrong.
Typo.
Down
It's a
below, they
typo.
changed.
Typo.
Okay, I'm just reading.
If you read the agenda, it's properly.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Oh, up there.
It's only been 4 hours, so. But anyway, and to come back with a contract with numbers so that we can look at what we're could approve.
Is that a reasonable,
I'll second.
okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion?
Yes, so I would like to clarify that we would have an opportunity in the, let's see, what is it gonna be? Kickoff workshop, that we would have an opportunity there to bring forward questions and suggestions.
Yes. My suggestion is you come with whatever amended language that you'd like to propose so it can be discussed at that workshop.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Can we get a roll call vote, please?
Councilmember Schaefer?
Yes.
Councilmember White?
Yes.
Councilmember DePriest?
Yes.
And Council President Roder?
Yes.
Okay, moving on to new business. Last city council meeting, there was a desire to discuss and provide goals to the Public Safety Commission. So this is, we don't need a motion here necessarily, but the opportunity for city council to discuss the Public Safety Commission and to ascertain whether you want to task them in the future with anything specific.
I'll start off. Hey, Thomas. I don't get to see you very often. You're the other end. I would propose, and it's, I knew this was going to be a late meeting, so I had to write down some of my comments because I start to lose it a little bit. But first thing, I would propose that we have a workshop with public safety, and we present to them our goals and get feedback and go back and forth. And the reason why I say that is because how many of our council members have law enforcement experience? Do any of you?
Military.
Ed, you've done drive.
I've done a lot of ride-alongs.
Yeah,
My
and your
family
dad
has-
was a
My
policeman.
family has numerous.
So you
law
have probably
enforcement,
the most. And so the point I want to make is, there are some people on that Public Safety Commission that have a whole bunch of experience, law enforcement experience. And I think we need to tap into what they have to say in their insights. And it's not that I want to take away our authority, but I think that we should seek wise counsel. And these guys on that Public Safety Commission have wise counsel. So that's something I would suggest, that if we want to do a motion to have a joint workshop with them to discuss these things, that's first. Then I'm going to read some things, and I got to read it because I'm getting tired.
Matt, before you jump to that, I think the commission would prefer a specific task. I know you're not literally suggesting a session where you just chew the fat, but I think what they're looking for from council and/or the city, and the city has provided, they're actually working on some stuff for us now, but I think what they're looking for from council is there a task you want them to perform on your behalf, research or make recommendations on something?
And I think that
So
would
as
be
a
better done together. That's
Right,
my-
but as a body, I think you all should agree, this is what you want them to do. We shouldn't show up and just kind of free for all it, right?
Okay, well then, let me make my points.
Yes, sir.
Okay. The city council is ultimately responsible for law enforcement in Hayden, not the Kootenai County Sheriff. The Sheriff's Department acts as a contractual agent of the city council in carrying out that responsibility. The city council is responsible to our voters and constituents. The city council must work with the Public Safety Commission to develop a community-based policing model that achieves, and this is what we could be working with and with the goals, that achieves the responsibility of the city council to provide for a safe community and meets the needs and expectations for our residents and businesses. After attending several meetings of the Public Safety Commission and hearing about the last meeting, I believe there is a consensus on the commission to develop a contract for law enforcement program, Hayden Police Services, quote unquote. in consultation with the sheriff's office that provides for a safe community and meets the needs and expectations for our residents and businesses within available funding, which is critical because we don't have a lot of money to spare. The work of the commission is to develop an organizational model law enforcement that can respond to crime analysis trends while maintaining a visible presence that serves our community. The deputies that are dedicated and assigned to serving our community, as called out in the contract, need to be a visible extension of the city in carrying out the charge of the city council. Our cadre of deputies also need to reflect the values of the city council and to share a commitment to serving the public. For example, I suggest that we, once a year, acknowledge one deputy and one firefighter as outstanding, and we make that presentation to them. I would like to see them at Hayden Days with a canopy and interacting with the community. While the city council lacks the experience and expertise to manage law enforcement in Hayden, we have appointed a commission that has decades of practical experience in managing law enforcement. The council needs to work with the commission to develop a community, and this is the key part, a community-based policing model. That doesn't say we're going to have our own police department, but we need to work with our county to do that. And then allow that model to evolve over coming years to meet the needs of the community. We also need to work together to find creative ways to fund police services so it's not at the expense of critical existing programs. Either taking money, because they're constantly asking for more money. I mean, we had a 26% increase when that levy increase, bond levy, was passed a few years ago, and they want more money. So I don't want to take that away from streets or recreation, and without placing additional tax levies on our residents. We all need to work together to make it happen. And those are some of the things that I wanted to share tonight regarding what we can do as a council and utilize a commission of talented, experienced guys on this commission. We have a federal retired judge. We've got a guy that was a fire chief. We have a retired, 40-year retired constable, which is the same as a sheriff, but they don't have responsibility for jail. And we also have a retired city administrator from Dana Point, California, who managed many contracts with police departments. They have a lot of experience, and we need to utilize them. Right now, they go, what do you want us to do? We need to send clear messages how we can utilize them to move forward with this community-based police model.
Matt, if I heard you correctly, and Ed, I'll get you a second. You're correct. We have a wonderful breadth and depth of experience on the Public Safety Commission. If I heard you correctly, the very thing that you wish to task them on has already been tasked by the city. So I tasked them to look at and Lisa, if you want to talk about it a little more, go ahead.
I'd be happy to.
A local police presence in City Hall, acting, of course, under the guidance of the sheriff, but someone who's more boots on ground to be available for our citizens and to direct the policing efforts, or at least oversee the policing efforts within the city. So that's already being done.
It would, I don't know if you want to ask other questions or if you want me to interject now. I don't
Go
mind
ahead,
sharing.
fire away.
So that the last, and admittedly, I will cause some of the delays in the Public Safety Commission sort of getting going on this attributed to just the level of time I needed to get up to speed with all of the players involved in dealing with law enforcement as it relates to the city of Hayden. And also along with all the other work that my position requires of me. But since I've had more time and spent time with our some of our commission members, as well as the sheriff's office, I've come up with sort of what I'm calling an effective measurement of law enforcement. It's the beginning starting point of how we're going to judge whether or not law enforcement is effective within our community. And I've presented this to the Public Safety Commission at the last meeting, and those include a three-pronged approach: community satisfaction, effective community engagement, and community accountability. And within each of those, we've looked at what I'm calling a proactive, a reactive, and a preventive position. So how can we best look at those three areas and judge success on. And we're working on what that would look like. I have some brain dumps, I call it, of ideas of how we can track compliance or improvement within each one of these areas. But as a result of first looking at how do we want to measure effective law enforcement, the next stage was how do we develop within the context of law enforcement under the contract that we currently have with the sheriffs, an effective tool. And one of the areas when you look at some of my proactive, reactive, and preventative areas was really on the accountability side of things. We really just don't have a representative within that structure that is our quasi-police chief. And so I presented to the Public Safety Commission the idea of working with the sheriff's office, creating a police chief, quasi-police chief role, which would probably be a lieutenant or I don't
You're
know,
right.
all of the levels
You're right.
that they have there, probably a lieutenant position that would need to be either created or filled in order to be that quasi-liaison and to physically have them here at City Hall. We are hopefully going to move our streets and some of our administrative services along with the Streets and Parks program out to a new facility, a new location, and that might leave opportunity for us to house a potential police chief. So as a result of that conversation with the Public Safety Commission, they felt it was a very strong opportunity for them to evaluate whether or not that would be an effective method within the sheriff's office. And they have tasked me to go back and work with our liaison at the sheriff's office to determine that. So I hope in the next month we'll be able to come back and look at potentially what that could look like and any cost implications. And they want to evaluate that to make a recommendation forward to you guys. I know that there's been some conversations happening outside of the Public Safety Commission about whether or not council should be downward directive or should it be upward directive. We've taken the initiative as staff to present an upward directive suggestion and to evaluate that before coming before you to get that downward direction. So if you guys feel it should go the other way, feel free to let me know. But for now, that's the task that the Public Safety Commission is evaluating, and they're quite enthusiastic about looking into this model. There are 4 communities within the state of Idaho that currently use a similar model, and I'm going to forget them all. Or some of them.
Eagle, Cuna.
Star, that's the one, and Ketchum.
Yep.
And I presented the Ketchum model because they had in their budget a presentation that showed that breakout, so it was very easy to visually see it. But they all do this, and all 4 communities do this with the sheriff, and they found great success in leveraging not only the law enforcement officers and a quasi-police chief, but also the administrative services that they can do on behalf that the city wouldn't have to own. So there's a sharing capacity going on.
So my question to council is, my statement is, one, we've definitely engaged them now after some delay. They're actively working for us or for you. Is there something above and beyond that you want to, as a body, task them with? Ed, go ahead.
Yeah, what kind of really set me off on this way back when we first brought up the issue of a potential public safety commission, there were a couple things. Number one, way back when the sheriff came to us and said, we need more sheriffs, we need more money, and he gave us several different, for 6 officers, 10 officers, whatever it is, and said, now this is what's going to cost us, right, for, yeah, this is what it's going to be. And then almost immediately, one of the commissioners, I guess, decided, well, no, you're not paying nearly enough, and it's going to be this. And so just as we passed the levy or the increase, with the people telling the people, here's what it is, here's what the sheriff told us it's going to be, all of a sudden, nah, well, it doesn't work that way. And then shortly thereafter, we get I'll say request/demand that the city provide a 5-year plan as to how we're going to pay for these increases that we're going to get. And I'm saying, well, and it's pretty obvious to me that if we don't increase then they're going to decrease. And we'll be right back where we were, but paying more. That caused me a lot of concern. I think I agree with everything. I appreciate everything Lisa just said. I agree with everything. We need involvement in the administration aspect of it. We need and Matt, I believe we also have a retired police chief, who's the chairman of it, I believe, but also,
Yes.
we've spoken with many of the same members of it, I believe, and the examples of the cooperative interaction between cities and law enforcement of the experience of some of those people, I think sounds to me like it would be very workable. But along with that, and getting back to my concern about being locked into the sheriff, because I think that, yeah, we're getting a pretty good deal right now, but it's obvious it's gonna continue to go up until we get to a level where it's just below what we could do for ourselves, type of thing. They aren't gonna take it up because then well, heck, we'll do it for ourselves. But I can see it where it's gonna keep going up until we get there, in an element of competition. And I'd like to see the public safety look into the potential. Is Post Falls interested in participating in something like this? They're on our border. Is Coeur d'Alene interested in participating? Just an interest. Or they might say, no way, man, we don't want anything to do with it. Okay, but look into it, because being locked in and basically saying, you got the contract, that takes a lot of negotiating leverage out of it, in my opinion. And I think they're just gonna keep working it. But I like what you said. I believe it sounds like what you described is this cooperative management accountability aspect where the city has some control that we don't,
And I think
that we
that's
don't
a
have
key
now.
point that we sort of lack now, is that when we think about administratively how this is managed and just the day-to-day operations, they land on my desk, and I want to say on day one, but it might have been day two, I reminded the mayor that I was not a police chief and I didn't want that position. So looking at trying to find somebody to be accountable for those points of community-based policing that would be responsible back to not only the council, but our community, are some key components. But to the point about bringing in competition and all that, I will tell you that I think a better solution, and I don't disagree that competition definitely is the way that our society works, or economics work, but I think if we continue to work at a very reasonable and accountable system of how we're judging effective policing, that you'll find that those two will fall in line, right? So I hope that if we can first start with some of these tenements about how we want to judge effective policing, then we can look back when somebody says, well, we need more officers. We now have a case for which we can build towards that potential new officer, or we need more administrative, whatever that is, we have some system of judgment or comparison. So, but that said, I believe that the direction we're going is in a good direction. I'm excited to see where the Public Safety Commission supports and where this will go, and I'm excited to bring that back to council at a future date.
So, Mr. Mayor, if I can paraphrase a few things I've heard here as possible direction, one would be direct Public Safety Commission to assess whether or not our money is being well spent right now. Is that a fair?
I wrote down cost analysis with other law enforcement.
Okay.
Is that what you're saying?
Yep. And then the other one would be, are we getting effective policing by contracting with the sheriff?
So as a body, is that something you guys want to task the Public Safety Commission to do?
Yeah, I think Lisa mentioned this, is we'd have to look at crime stats, and then we have to get input from our citizens. Do they feel safe based on the level of policing that we have? I think those are the two real critical variables.
I believe that the Public Safety Commission in the last meeting were focusing more on working with the sheriff than with a police department model, and I agree with that. That changing to a police force is not cost effective and very difficult. So I would not want to direct them to look at a police force at all. I would like to comment that I'm glad to see public comment was added to their agenda for the upcoming meetings. I think that's very important. And I think that in the upcoming meetings, they should be publicized a little more, that there is going to be public comment, that this meeting is coming up, and have people know that this is available. I would also like to see the meetings recorded, video recorded, so that people can go back and look at what's been discussed and talked about, and be informed, and just more transparency there too. So I'm looking forward to the new report format that they've come up with. I just would like to encourage them in that. I think that what they're suggesting for new forms is nice. And I would like to see a presence of a sheriff representative at some of our council meetings, maybe not every meeting, but every other meeting, to give a report and to also let us ask questions. And let's see. I would also think that in regards to public safety, that maybe they could make some resources available to our citizens. Like, for example, maybe look into a neighborhood watch program. Something like that would cut costs to the sheriff if we had more public involvement. Or look into deputizing citizens, or classes for people, such concealed carry classes or self-defense classes. Start making some resources available to the citizens. And so that's what I would suggest.
Okay, are there any more comments for this item? I'm hearing none. So will council be satisfied in lieu of having a meeting or a workshop to just simply can we consider the commission tasked to do a cost analysis with other potential law enforcement providers?
I don't
What was that
understand what
last thing you
means.
just said?
What's that?
I don't
What was that
understand.
last thing you just said?
It was a restatement of what Ed had talked about, and you had also commented, which is performing a cost analysis of what it would take to get law enforcement services from other providers.
That's not what I said.
I apologize.
I said, are we getting effective policing right now?
You also did say that, yes.
Yeah, because, and sorry, Ed, I know you want to speak. I'll just.
No, I'm okay, go ahead.
I'll be real quickly
Yeah.
here. I'm going to align myself with Councilman White on this, is that I have a philosophical problem with us establishing our own police force.
No.
Yeah, and that's not,
That's not what I said.
yeah, we're not.
No, I know you
Yeah.
didn't.
Nobody said that except for Sandy.
Okay.
We have no desire to.
No, that's right.
Yeah, that's way expensive.
Mr. Mayor, could you read your statement one more time?
Yeah, I apologize. I'm just trying to take notes on what I'm hearing you guys say.
Okay,
So
thank you.
what I thought I heard you guys say was potentially as action items is to do some kind of a cost analysis to see what it would cost for other law enforcement providers, e.g. Post Falls, e.g. Coeur d'Alene, to provide the same services. And then in addition to that, as Tom just corrected, are we getting effective law enforcement from the current contract? That's what I'm
And
hearing
is
you guys say.
is our money being well spent?
But are you in support of what Lisa has already outlined as her program she's putting together for the commission to evaluate that exact question?
Sure, yeah.
Yeah, and so, one thing we didn't talk about was under the proactive, reactive, and preventative sections, it has, and I'm building this, it's not like I'm taking it from somebody else, I'm trying to create this, is, under community satisfaction, for example, it says track number of complaints and track response times, so and maybe the Public Safety Commission can set an expectation of what is a reasonable response time. A reactive one would be crime clearance rates or tracking crime. And then prevention might be community education, school resource officer, training, overall feeling of safety, those kinds of things. Again, these are just my brain dumping notes. My point is that when I heard you say effective policing, I wrote down with data. I don't know if that's what you were getting at, or if you were thinking.
I'm not a law enforcement expert. I wouldn't purport to know how to
Just
assess
effective
that.
policing is just a huge umbrella word. I wouldn't know to a certain degree what you mean by that. I'd need some directives unless you feel comfortable with the Public Safety Commission under my quasi-leadership here, helping to move or shepherd that along into something.
My concern, and this is to kind of reinforce what Councilman DePriest said, is we experienced a big bump in taxes to pay for more law enforcement. has it gotten the result we anticipated or not? Because it's a very emotional subject, and so maybe I am in a way saying, is that, what's the data say?
And we'll work towards that, but I guess if there's some other directive you want under effective policing outside of that, I would just ask for some clarity or
You wanna
direction.
talk? 'Cause
Yeah, I'm fine. Yeah, I do, but
I have one more thing to say about this is, I feel like these gentlemen, they are, there's no.
There are some women deputies.
No, I think, are you
On
talking
the
about
commission.
deputies
On
or
the
the
commission.
commission?
Oh, sorry.
Commission.
They're the experts. I feel like they should be telling us what they think are the effective ways to improve public safety, and then we deliberate as legislators.
That's exactly what I want to say. I agree with Matt. We need a workshop where at the very least, we bounce our ideas around. We sit down on the table and go, yeah, what do you think about this? What's your experience with this? Oh, that's a waste of time? Okay. Why is it a waste of time? Oh, okay. Oh, this might be worth looking into because da-da-da-da-da, where we can all have that discussion and ability to draw on their knowledge and expertise, and then maybe narrow it down when we finish the conversation, going, okay, those things Ed suggested, they're a waste of time. Let's just narrow it down on this. Great, but at least give us the opportunity to draw on a former police chief, a city planner, a federal, all these people have a ton of knowledge and experience that could educate us, being able to sit across the table from them and communicate with them.
And I guess my question is do you want that as a joint meeting, or do you feel like we're already starting that process as the commission?
Well, I'd like to sit around the table, just like we did any workshop, say, hey, what do you think about this?
Sounds like the answer is a joint workshop.
If you want to call it, whatever you want to call it. Sit around the table and shoot it.
Mr. Mayor?
Sorry,
Yes.
another workshop.
Well, I think that Lisa's got them on such a good direction that it might be more useful for you to have that workshop when your commission's ready to deliver a recommendation to you. And then you can fire questions at that, but did you think of this? Yes, we did, and here's how we evaluated it. Did you think of this? Because it might be chaotic if they aren't delivering to you a product of a recommendation that then you can ask them questions about.
I agree with that.
That's what I'm worried about, is it becomes just kind of spitballing ideas, and it's really hard from that point to really get an upward momentum about where we're going, when I feel like we have a trajectory at this point. We just need time to work towards it.
Go ahead, Tim.
I just want to keep in mind too that there's a police force and a sheriff department have two different kinds of accountability. And I don't want us to try to fit a square peg into a round hole and make the sheriff accountable to what we say or what we want. They have an autonomy, they follow the Constitution, they do things a different way and have a different accountability. And yes, they're working for us, and yes, we want a report from them, but I don't want us to say, you have to do it this way, and limit how they do it, because it's not the same as a police force.
All law enforcement, as did we, swear an oath to uphold the Constitution of the United States and the state of Idaho. So I can't understand this. This is a constitutional one and this isn't. All take the oath to uphold the Constitution of the United States and the state of Idaho. So whether you're a Coeur d'Alene police officer, a Kootenai County sheriff, or whatever, you're a constitutional officer. I get lost in this continual comment about this one's a constitutional. They're all constitutional. Help me.
With respect, and we're getting off the rails.
Yeah, I was going
here.
to say that I think the question at hand Lisa's asked, that was the last data point, is given that we've already given the commissioners some momentum and a direction, would council be patient enough to give some time for the city to then present to you the kind of work that's being done and then get your inputs to what might need to be modified? Would you guys be satisfied with that?
Yes.
Which could be in the format of this workshop has been
Sure,
suggested.
so we could have a workshop in the future, once they get some things to show you, you've got some questions to ask, you've got some data to look at, as opposed to just being spitball. So will council be satisfied with that?
Yes.
I would like it sooner than later that we get together, because they've been lingering for months saying,
know.
what do you want us to do?
But that's
And we
not-
had some people that say, we're gonna quit.
Yep, but
So I
that's-
don't want to lose these good people, so sooner, and if you ask them,
Yep.
they're gonna say sooner than later.
I-
And also, I wanna add that we may come up with a bunch of tasks for them. They're all volunteers. They may say, we don't have time. I think we need this interaction to sift through this stuff, what they're willing to do, because they have, I believe they have much better, and this is my opinion, they have better views of what should be asked and what should be looked at than we do as a council. We need to rely on them.
Agreed.
So sooner the better.
Okay, all right, so can we put this one to bed?
I'll make a motion that we have a joint workshop with the Public Safety Commission sooner than later.
At the point that they have a deliverable recommendation for you.
Yes.
Oh, we want to hear it.
Yes, you will,
We know
you
that we
should.
can hear it.
Yep.
Yep.
Okay.
I'll second.
Do we need to second a vote on that?
Did he amend his motion to include that or not?
He did.
Yeah, good one.
All right, assuming there's no discussion, I guess, can we get a roll call vote on this? Did you have more discussion?
No, I'm just, is this something that we need to make a motion on?
I didn't think so, but they did.
You really don't. It was listed as an action
I was
item,
gonna
but
say, I don't think we really need a motion, frankly. I was just trying to get through it.
you have a motion on the floor, though.
All right, but we do have a motion, so can we get a roll call vote, please?
Did you have a second?
Yes.
Ed, okay, thank you.
Councilmember White?
Come back to me.
You can come back.
Councilmember Schaefer?
Yes.
Councilmember White?
Looking back to Zoom.
There's only 4 of you.
Yes,
2 of them.
yes.
Councilmember DePreez?
Yes.
Council President Roder?
Yes.
All right, moving on to item 6A. Lisa, do you have anything that you want to discuss?
I'll make it very brief, I promise. I just gave council a copy of a budget of where we sit today. It's building off of what you received when we did our first budget. So at that point, we had through March 30th, now you have it through June 30th numbers. So, and then the first page is the summary of all the funds that we have, which include general funds, special revenue funds, and enterprise funds. And then the subsequent pages thereof are just the detailed information. And then if you want the full-blown detail, we can give you a budget printout. But I just wanted to give council kind of a budget summary of where we sit to date through this fiscal year.
Thank you.
And
Any
I'd be happy to
questions for
answer
Lisa?
any
So we're 4 million and change in the black is what this says.
Yeah, if you compare expenses to revenues, we're doing all right now. And if you want to look by fund, you can look at this as well.
Okay. Next is 6B, any roundtable discussion. Susie has asked, we have a parade coming up for Hayden Days. City Council, I'm asking City Council, would you let Susie know if you want to walk in the parade or you plan on bringing a car? I will share I've offered to drive and to shuttle the Veteran of the Year in, I've got a 2-seater car, so.
What day is that?
I will do that for Susie.
7th, I think.
I believe it is the 27th.
27?
Yeah. So so please get with Susie and let her know that you're gonna go in the parade or not and what your mode of transportation is, please. Anything else for roundtable, Ed?
Of course.
I closed my computer.
Couldn't let you down. I went to that ITD open house that the gentleman referred to earlier, and he said 53 options. I estimated 20, and they put together a nice little booklet of all the different options and things like that. And again, I hung around for an hour and a half, almost the entire thing. And again, as I do, I just hung out and listened. I asked the ITD people several questions there about it. They aren't even going to have a decision on which ones they're going to choose until spring of 25 at the earliest. At the earliest. And how long has it been going on, Donna? 20, 30 years now,
1997.
Cutter bypass, whatever it is,
Yeah.
type of thing.
6 years.
And I said to him, so what about funding and stuff like that? As time goes by, inflation's only gonna make, where's the funding gonna come from? No answer, really. And this is just my opinion from the conversations I had with them and the boards that they had and stuff like that. It looks to me like it's likely that they're gonna select a route that runs kind of along the Rathdrum Hill up to 53 and over. They really didn't.
Really?
Well, this is my, again.
Wow.
They really didn't sell me that we're really considering Hutter. It didn't appear to be, with people I talked to, didn't appear to be too jacked on it. And we got to leave comments, and you wrote them on the little thing there, and you filled out your paper. And I basically said, would you please make a decision quick, because you're basically holding the city of Hayden hostage when it comes to our planning out in that area. It's been going on forever, and there's development and people wanting to do things along there. And so please figure it out and do something so that you aren't hanging us out another 10 to 20 years, because even if they choose the Hutter bypass, it could be 10 to 20 years before they do it. So anyways, very, very informative, glad they have them and stuff like that. And if you get opportunities to go to them, see for yourself, public watching and stuff like that, ask your questions, because we need to get, for the best interest of the city, ITD needs to figure it out and let us know one way or another.
I agree. Anything else? Matt? I didn't forget about you.
Oh, go ahead, Lisa, ladies.
All right, Lisa, go ahead.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
I thought you were gonna say the best for last.
Oh, no.
Budget presentation, at this point, the budget right now is set on the itinerary that I gave you guys for July 30th, and that was in order to allow for workshops if we needed them, but I have not heard that we need another workshop, so staff is thinking about putting it on for the July 23rd regular meeting, and I just want to make sure that there's no concerns related around that, but at this point, that's the tentative. It's moving it up in the agenda, but I think or as far as the timing goes, but I think for good reasons, because we don't have a need to meet.
Okay.
Sounds good.
Matt?
Yeah, part of a community policing model is that you have your deputies interacting with folks. It's important that they get to know the community and the community gets to know them. We have 6 or 7 assigned deputies based on our contract with the Cooney County Sheriff's Office. Does anybody know the names of any of the deputies, other than you?
Or us.
Okay. Do you know them all?
I know one.
Oh, well, that's the point. So I would like to invite them to be part of this. Let the public know, these are your deputies. These are the people that are watching you. They're here 24/7, and we have 2 of them on duty all the time, or however that works, just to reassure them where their money's going. But when you put a face, it's really important, I think, for community policing.
Are they watching us or watching out for us?
Both. Particularly you.
All right, do we have any other discussion?
I have a real quick question. A constituent of mine told me that the I-95 crossing lights buttons at Hayden are not working. I'm gonna be at the KMPO meeting on Thursday. Do I tell the ITD guy then? Or is that something that the city has leverage?
Is Hayden in 95?
Hayden and 95, yeah.
So
The crossing
walking,
buttons.
the
Yeah,
crossing,
the crossing
crosswalk.
buttons do not work according to the person I spoke to.
Sounds like we got it for action.
We'll look into it, but you're welcome to bring it up at the KMPO meeting if you have an ITD person there. It's always helpful if you can say it to their face, but we can certainly try to get that message as
Okay.
well.
I think it's the time to entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Adjourn.
So,